She nudged to the side once more as she stayed far away from Li Moying before shutting her eyes and fully concentrating on cultivating. Li Moying sensed that the young lady's breathing became stable and opened his eyes, turning his head to look at her. That fair complexion was filled with a shade of red because of the heat, and his heart started to jolt again. Li Moying hurriedly shut his eyes and held his breathing, forcing himself to forget what he had seen earlier, but alas, his reaps were minimal. It took a long period of time before he successfully entered the state of cultivation. He gotta admit that the energy contained in phoenix blood was extremely powerful. The next morning, Huang Yueli's injuries had recovered by a large majority. Although it was still a distance from a full recovery, at least all the wounds had closed up and the swelling had gone down by quite a bit. Whereas Li Moying seemed to have slight signs of advancement. After Huang Yueli realized this, she looked at her own fiancé's jealousy. This man, his innate talent was just too good, wasn't it? He was already at 7th stage realm 3rd level, and just soaking an entire night in phoenix blood made him want to advance again. He wasn't from sacred phoenix race and his main attribute wasn't fire, but his absorption towards energy was so powerful. Li Moying turned back and threw her a puzzled look. What's the matter? Why are you staring at me like that? Huang Yueli raised her chin bluntly. Next time you're not allowed to take a soak with me. In order to prevent you from sneaking an attack on me, I've already let Moe find a super large bathtub for you, and it's placed in the study room so you can go there and take a soak. Li Moying immediately put on a pretentious, pitiful look. Aw. Why? This is obviously my bedroom too. Why can't I use it? Huang Yueli replied, what you said is reasonable. If not, you can just sleep in the study room from now on, so in this way you won't feel that it's not normal. Don't. I'll go alright. Li Moying was helpless as he could only raise both his hands and feet to surrender. Although he was not able to see the beautiful view of the beauty emerging from the bath, but it was much better than being swept out of the door by his fiancée. Only, Moe, this fellow really was too blind. Did he or did he not know who the master of this house was? He actually dared to help Huang Yueli search for a bathtub. He was really in need of a lesson. Li Moying spent every day accompanying his fiancée cultivating, soaking, refining armaments, and was so indulged in the pleasure that he forgot his duties, too lazy to even leave his residence. Murongde had sent someone over to look for him several times, to bring Huang Yueli over to Celestial Light Sect's higher management meeting, but were all rejected by him. Now that 70% quota was already in their hands, for Celestial Light Sect to hold a meeting at this point of time, it was definitely to inquire on how to distribute the quota. This was something which was linked to every wing's benefits, and if it were ordinary elders, they simply could not be absent from this meeting. But Li Moying totally wasn't interested at all. Anyway, his position was up there in the sect, and moreover this quota was one entirely based on his leer, so the quota that belonged to him would not be very little. As for how the others got it, what did it have to do with him? This kind of lousy matter regarding fighting for benefits was something which he was most uninterested in. How on earth was it able to be as interesting as compared to teasing his little fiancée? But even though Li Moying and Huang Yueli didn't attend the meeting, Luo Jiyun came knocking on the door on pretext of visiting Huang Yueli and even brought along quite a number of latest news in the sect. Eldest senior brother, sister-in-law, luckily you didn't join in that meeting to distribute the quote. You don't know that on that day at the meeting, Elder Han and Elder Wang had completely torn their faces over a few quota. You can also listen on. Luo Jiyun gave a vivid and lifelike description. The two elders are all 300 to 400 years old, but they were still banging tables as they quarreled, which was simply an eye-opener. According to the usual conditions, it wasn't Luo Jiyun's turn to attend such a kind of management meeting, but as he displayed outstanding performance at the arena tournament, plus Li Moying personally assigned him to his spokesman, hence he had the chance to attend the meeting. Li Moying gave a cold snort. These old men had always been like that, but they always acted prim and proper in front of ordinary disciples only. Huang Yueli was rather curious, then what was the final conclusion of the meeting? How was the quota allocated eventually? Luo Jiyun replied, the elders each stood their own grounds, assuming that they had contributed the greatest to the sect and all wanted a few more places. Moreover, they mentioned that if they didn't obtain a satisfactory amount of quota, they would reject giving a hand at the time when the mystic region opens up. By then, everyone would not be able to go. Simply too much. He felt indignant at the injustice as he spoke, whereas Huang Yueli and Li Moying were totally used to this. So what if they were 9th stage realm practitioners? So what if they were elders from a large sect? In front of benefits, no one would possibly give way as their ugly faces showed, so they were long used to seeing this. Luo Jiyun continued, luckily Master finally thought of an idea. Other than the 10 quota which eldest senior brother requested for and must be given, the remaining 60 quota must be given according to certification of ability. Which means, the sect will hold a tournament 7 days later. All of the disciples in the sect, regardless of whether they are direct disciples or not, are all allowed to take part. However, only those placed in the top 60 will be allowed to get a quota to enter the ancient mystic region. Huang Yueli laughed as she said, Sect Master Murong is after all someone who had been a sect master for many years. He indeed has ideas, so in this way, the other elders have no way to oppose, right? Isn't that so? Elder Wang's disciples under his wings aren't really that strong in terms of ability, so this proposal is very disadvantageous to him, but he simply couldn't find any reason to oppose, so he was so infuriated that he left directly on the spot. Seeing the both of them in such speculative talk, Li Moying was watching from the side as he uncontrollably felt a little jealous. He stretched out his hand and locked onto Huang Yueli's arm as he carried her from the back. All these are basically rubbish on the scramble for power and profit, so there's nothing much to listen to. Saying that, he turned his head around to look at Luo Jiyun, 5th junior brother. From what you narrated, it means that you must take part in the tournament 7 days later, so why are you not returning back to cultivate? Luo Jiyun didn't realize that Li Moying was jealous as he gave a complacent laugh when he heard what Li Moying said. Eldest senior brother, it's not as if you don't know. My current ability among the younger generation of the sect is of no problem to get into the top 10. How could I not get a quota for myself? Li Moying's face turned darker. Then what will happen after you enter the mystic region? The ancient mystic region is filled with danger, and just based on your 5th stage realm cultivation, you can't even defeat your sister-in-law. What happens if you meet with danger? Luo Jiyun then detected that Li Moying's tone wasn't quite right. This, Huang Yueli burst out in laughter. Junior brother Luo, thank you for telling us these today. I have something on with your eldest senior brother, so do on back first. If there's any new news, remember to let us know. Luo Jiyun looked at Li Moying's hand, which was clasped tightly on Huang Yueli's waist, then looked at his evidently unpleasant expression when he finally got it. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead as he gave an agreeable response and immediately slipped away. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli looked at his fleeing figure as she found it even funnier. Li Moying gave a cold harumph. At last he's gone, at least he knows what's good for him. Huang Yueli shook her head helplessly. You don't need to act in this way, right? Junior brother Luo merely just spoke a few sentences to me. What's there to talk about? Those matters which he mentioned are of no value at all. Li Moying was filled with disdain for him. Huang Yueli curiously asked, the matter regarding the quota allocation, you're really not going to care about it? Then will you still go watch the tournament, which will be held 7 days later? Li Moying gave her a strange look. What's there to see? Don't tell me you wish to go. Huang Yueli shook her head. Then that does it. Let's ignore those boring people and continue with our bath. Can we soak together today? Scram, fat hope. 7 days later. Celestial Light Sect's internal tournament started as scheduled. This tournament, to the sect's inner disciples, was an absolutely great chance for them to change their lives. Originally based on their statuses, it was impossible for them to fight for a quota with the direct disciples, so such a good thing like entering the mystic region would never be their turn. However, this round, because of Huang Yueli who had fought for more quota, they were allowed to have a chance to take part in the tournament. Many of them were feeling grateful towards Huang Yueli, and in many Celestial Light sect disciples' eyes, Huang Yueli was the same as Li Moying, already becoming a legendary level character. Many of them knew that they could not possibly win at this tournament, but they still chose to take part in it. The main reason was hoping to catch a glimpse of the two of them. Unfortunately, what made them disappointed was that Li Moying and Huang Yueli both didn't appear at all. But this totally didn't affect the intensity of the tournament. On the stage, the battle progress was unstoppable as everyone wanted to grab hold of this once-in-a-lifetime chance, hence the battle was extremely intense. On the contrary, some powerful direct disciples didn't need to battle and they obtained the quota, hence they stayed by the side to watch the show without any pressure. Under the tree shade, Murong Fei swept her glances towards the high stage several rounds as she revealed a disappointed look. Eldest senior brother really didn't come. Li Lingchuan replied, so what if he came? Every time eldest senior brother appears, he would bring along his little fiancée, and now quite a number of people are fans of Miss Bai, so her reputation has already outshone yours. If they were to appear together, then that scene. You will definitely not be able to take it. Murong Fei was so angry that she bit her teeth but was totally unable to say any words of rebuttal. That little slut. I'll show her sooner or later. What's the point of just cursing her? If you want to make her disappear, then you have to think of a complete plan. As Li Lingchuan was saying that, he suddenly saw a man dressed in white standing not too far away. His gaze suddenly flashed as he said to Murong Fei, third junior sister, earlier master seemed to have sent someone over to look for you. Oh. Was there? How come I didn't hear a thing? Murong Fei asked in puzzlement. Li Lingchuan replied, earlier I heard a servant girl calling out for you. Quickly go take a look, perhaps it might be something urgent. Murong Fei frowned, but she didn't consider the fact that Li Lingchuan would lie to her, so she quickly left. After Li Lingchuan sent Murong Fei away, he walked towards that white-robed man. Master Lang, long time no see. I'd not expected to meet you here today. Ling Yifeng stood alone under a tree not too far away as he was concentrating on the battle on stage. He wasn't Celestial Light Sect's disciple, so for him to return to his place, his motive was naturally not simple. You can also listen on. Ling Yifeng saw Li Lingchuan walking nearer as he was extremely surprised. He had thought that his action of spying had caused Celestial Light Sect's displeasure, so he hastily tried to clear himself. Master Li, long time no see, how have you been? Don't misunderstand, I happened to be passing by and coincidentally saw the tournament that your sect is holding. I'm preparing to leave now. This was called telling a lie with his eyes wide open. Green Cloud Sect's base was quite a distance away from Celestial Light Sect, and although there were quite a number of guards patrolling near the tournament grounds, Ling Yifeng was able to avoid all the guards perfectly while appearing at this place, which was absolutely not possible to be as simple as passing by. A clear-minded person knew it clearly that he was here to help Green Cloud Sect scout for the real situation. After all, after they enter the ancient mystic region, the victor of the tournament would become Green Cloud Sect's opponent. Li Lingchuan gave a smile which didn't look quite like a smile as he replied, Master Lang, I'm not here to chase you away but here specially to wait for you. I have some personal matters, which I wish to discuss with you. As one of the younger generation's top experts who was just beneath Li Moying, Li Lingchuan had long obtained a quota to enter the mystic region, so his motive here was to meet Ling Yifeng. Oh. Ling Yifeng's brows rose in surprise, your Celestial Light Sect's talented disciple. What matter could you possibly have to discuss with me? Li Lingchuan replied, let's move elsewhere to have a chat. Lang Yifeng nodded. The both of them walked to an even seclusive corner. Li Lingchuan then said, upright people don't speak secretly. Our motive for looking for you, I'm assuming that Master Lang has already guessed it. We have a common purpose, so after entering the ancient mystic region, we must cooperate properly. Lang Yifeng's heart jolted, but the words which came out of his mouth were as such. What does Master Li mean? Why is it that I don't understand you at all? We are both in different sects, so how is it possible that we have a common purpose? Li Lingchuan took a look at their surroundings, and after verifying that no one was hiding in the darkness to eavesdrop, he finally brought his meaning out into the open. Master Lang, do you want Bairuoli or not? Lang Yifeng's body shook. He totally had not expected that his hidden thoughts was exposed in such a direct manner. He indeed wanted that exceptionally talented genius young lady. Furthermore, after witnessing her shocking performance on the arena stage that day, his heart desired her even more than ever, as that feeling was so intense that it was like a ball of fire, devouring and scorching at his chest. Only, the man behind Huang Yueli was simply too powerful. Furthermore, Huang Yueli totally treated his Ling family's authority with haughty contempt. That day she had directly rejected him, so that left Lang Yifeng with no more plans to execute. Moreover, he had been defeated by Li Moying in just one move several times. It was simply so embarrassing that he didn't even dare to talk about this, so how was a Celestial Light sect disciple able to see through him? Lang Yifeng immediately denied, I don't understand what you're talking about. Bairuoli. Isn't she a disciple of your Celestial Light sect? What does she have to do with me? Li Lingchuan looked at this instantly changing expression as it affirmed the guess in his heart. He spoke steadfastly, actually the performance which you showed on the arena stage that day already let many of us see that something was not quite right. Bairuoli was Li Moying's fiancée, but when Feng Xiaoning wanted to deal her with a deadly hand, you suddenly appeared to stop your own junior brother. Isn't that very strange? Logically speaking, if Bairuoli was either killed or crippled, my eldest senior brother would be despondent, but to you, it should be something which was worth celebrating over. You can also listen on. Lang Yifeng really didn't expect that his involuntary rashness that day actually allowed someone to see through his flaw. He thought that he had concealed it very well. Lang Yifeng refused to admit, I am doing this because of the friendship between our sects. If someone died on the arena, and the person who died is Li Moying's fiancé, then there would definitely be no way for our two sects to continue with the cooperation. Li Lingchuan plainly knew that he wouldn't easily admit to it, as he wasn't in a hurry as well. He said this in a straightforward manner, Master Lang, the graceful maiden is well suited as a spouse for the gentleman, so what's there to deny about? You don't need to guard me as though you're guarding against a thief. I'm here looking for you because I want to help you. Help me? Are you that kind-hearted? Lang Yifeng gave a cold laugh. Li Lingchuan replied, the lady you like is already engaged. Although it is disappointing, but after all, they're still not married, isn't it? If an accident were to happen to her fiancé while he was on experience training, a light flashed past Lang Yifeng's eyes as he finally raised his head to look at Li Lingchuan in the eye. The two exchanged glares and saw the ambition and schemes in each other's eyes. Lang Yifeng remained silent for a while, then laughed, looks like Master Lang is after something big. That's not wrong either. Based on Master Lang's innate talent and potential, you are considered as a top-rated super talent in South Sky region, but unfortunately, having an abnormal senior brother like Li Moying, no matter how hard you try, it's impossible to surpass him. If I were in your shoes, I would be extremely melancholic. Li Lingchuan didn't deny, nor did he admit to it. He merely replied, so does that mean that Master Lang believes the sincerity that I have to cooperate with you? Lang Yifeng nodded as he replied, I understand your intention now, but if I were to help you deal with Li Moying, the advantage which you will get is huge. Not only will you get to replace him as Celestial Light Sect's young sect master to become the future sect master, you will also be able to marry sect master Murong's daughter. As compared to that, I am at a major disadvantage. Li Lingchuan said disapprovingly, Master Lang, why try to sound me out? Whether I'm at a disadvantage or not, you know it very well. For a peerless talented young lady like Bairuoli, she is a rare case, and even in the entire Sky Emperor City, there probably are not many around. Even if there is, there are so many strong practitioners in Sky Emperor City, so when will it be your turn? You only have this one chance, and if you miss it, you'll regret it for life, isn't that so? Obviously everyone could tell that it was a rare sight to see a young lady with exceeding innate talent in both armament refining and cultivation. Even if Li Lingchuan had absolute disgust towards Huang Yueli because of Li Moying, but he had no choice but to admit that Huang Yueli's value was even much higher than Celestial Light Sect, the #1 sect in South Sky region. The person to gain the biggest reward from this transaction was still Leng Yifeng. Leng Yifeng saw that he was so clear-minded and didn't bother to be pretentious anymore, so he could only reply, all right, since we're going to cooperate, then let's bring out our sincerity. Actually, I originally intended to take action in the Mystic region, and I have a rough idea. Only there's a little problem which I have no way to solve. Oh. What problem is that? Li Lingchuan didn't expect the matter to be so smooth as he asked excitedly. Leng Yifeng continued, actually the ancient mystic region which we are going to enter this time is an early historical remains left in Soaring Heavens continent which was left by the Cloudy Qilin clan several thousands of years ago. It had been recorded in Green Cloud sect's historical ancient records, and recently a few elders from the sect had finally decoded the contents after several hundred years of research, certifying the location of this ancient mystic region. You can also listen on. He paused and continued, the ancient records not only recorded the location of the ancient mystic region. Furthermore, it also roughly recorded the situation in the mystic region. Li Lingchuan's eyes immediately lit up. In this case, you guys have the map of the mystic region. Leng Yifeng shook his head. It's not really considered as a map, and the historical ancient records aren't complete. Many contents are mutilated and some are totally non-decodable, so we could only decode part of the contents. But it's more than enough to use it to deal with Li Moying. Leng Yifeng checked the surrounding as he lowered his voice even more. The ancient records stated a few extremely dangerous locations, and the most dangerous part of all is the area which is right smack in the center of the mystic region, circumference of within 10 miles. It was rumored that in the several thousands of years, this ancient mystic region had been opened several times, and every single time someone entered the center region, there would always be no return, and so far, no one had successfully come out before. You're saying, Li Lingchuan was also an intelligent person, so he immediately understood what he was trying to say, we can lure Li Moying over to that center region. Leng Yifeng nodded and replied, that's right. Li Lingchuan continued while looking a little worried, this plan sounds feasible, but are you certain you're able to trap him? You've also seen it for yourself on my eldest senior brother's ability. Many things which are totally impossible for others, but to him, it's so easy. If this time round he's done it yet again, completing what other people couldn't complete to leave the center region safely, then the minute Li Moying went into a rage, there was no one who could take his wrath. Although Li Lingchuan was plotting behind him secretly, but when he thought about the consequences which could possibly happen after their plot falls through, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Leng Yifeng gave a cold snort. I really can't tell that your guts is this small, and you're still planning on becoming Celestial Light Sect's future sect master. As the saying goes, you won't be able to get the tiger cub if you don't enter the tiger den. You can't even take this amount of risk. Moreover speaking, for several thousands of years, among the number of talents who entered the center region, there is definitely someone who is more outstanding than Li Moying, but they also couldn't return back, isn't it? This is a mystic region which was left by a historical sacred clan. If it wasn't your celestial light sect's array, how could it possibly not trap him? Li Lingchuan thought about it and indeed found it logical, as he finally toughened his heart. Alright, then we'll listen to your plan. How do you want me to coordinate with you? Leng Yifeng continued, this plan to me, the most difficult part is how to lure Li Moying over. After all, we're not of the same sect, and the minute we enter the mystic region, our relationship will then become the opposing team. Li Moying isn't an idiot, so how could he possibly not defend against me? When Li Lingchuan heard that, he immediately laughed. You want me to help lure him over? This is simple, leave it all to me. As they were under the same wing, wasn't it a small issue which didn't require much effort to dig this hole for Li Moying? Saying that, he looked left and right before preparing to leave. This was Celestial Light Sect's internal tournament grounds, and as a disciple of Green Cloud Sect, it originally wasn't a place which he could stay for long. Li Lingchuan hurriedly called out to him, Mr. Leng, wait a moment, I have a request. What's the matter? Leng Yifeng frowned. Li Lingchuan continued, I need Murong Fei's help to lure Li Moying over. So I'll explain this entire matter to her, but please do not expose the contents of the deal between us to her. You can also listen on. When Leng Yifeng heard that, he was stunned. What do you mean? Li Lingchuan explained, you should be able to tell that my third junior sister openly admires Li Moying. If she were to find out that our common purpose is to get him killed, then she would absolutely not help us, so, that was why he intentionally drove Murong Fei away when he saw Leng Yifeng, before he approached him. Leng Yifeng understood the meaning behind as he immediately nodded to promise, be assured, I know what to say. After the two of them derived a common understanding, the both of them parted ways and sneakily left. No one would have expected that the opposing Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect had two important figures who had secretly reached an agreement on an underhanded transaction. Very quickly, a month's time passed by. This day was the important day which Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect agreed to meet, to work together mutually to activate the ancient mystic region. 3 days ago, both large sects had assigned several flying ships with their elders and disciples who were going to enter the mystic region to the meeting point. Gathering at a dim swamp in between South Sky region and West Sky region's boundary. There weren't many resources which were of use and were extremely dangerous, so usually the number of people who neared this place was scarce. So there was practically no one who could have thought that this place hid an early historical remains which the ancient sacred clan left behind. At this juncture, Green Cloud Sect didn't keep any more secrets. Under Murong's continuous urging, Cui Yuan introduced the situation in the mystic region in simple terms. This ancient mystic region was heard to be an early history which had been left behind by the great powerhouse Cloudy Chelan clan in the ancient times, hence its name as Cloudy Chelan Mystic Region. According to ancient records, Cloudy Chelan clan had left the soaring heavens continent under the pressure of the sacred phoenix race several thousands of years ago. As there were some treasures which they were unable to bring along with them, hence they left it all in the mystic region, protecting it, and only using a special method would they be able to activate the mystic region. Several thousands of years ago, there was someone who followed according to the ancient records to open the Cloudy Chelan mystic region, but in the past 10,000 years, more than half of the contents of the ancient records had gone missing, resulting in no knowledge of this mystic region. This time round, us two sects will be working together to activate the Cloudy Chelan mystic region, so this is a huge feat for the past 10,000 years. It's worth commemorating. Fellows of Celestial Light Sect who are able to join in this lucky chance are really having great luck. As Cui Yuan Shan spoke, he started to feel disgusted. The ones who had decoded the ancient records and found Cloudy Chelan mystic region were then Green Cloud Sect. But the one who benefited the most was actually Celestial Light Sect. 70% of the mystic region quota had been snatched away from them, which really made his head ache, liver ache, flesh ache, aching everywhere. Thinking of this, Cui Yuan Shan thought of the character who made Green Cloud's sect suffered the most loss, Huang Yueli. If not for her sudden appearance, things wouldn't have developed to such a state and Green Cloud's sect would have definitely obtained enough quota smoothly. Cui Yuan Shan's gaze swept towards Huang Yueli and it only took one look to make him extremely infuriated. He saw that young lass, the culprit, holding hands with Li Moying as they stood at the very end of the Celestial Light sect team. Furthermore, a relaxed expression hung on her face as she kept looking around, totally not carefully listening to him talking at all. What situation was this? Based on her background as a young lass from the countryside, this should be the first time that she obtained such a good chance for experience learning, to enter such a high-class mystic region for an expedition, so shouldn't she be acting in fear and trepidation? Why did she totally seem as though she disregarded this, making it look as though she was out for a spring outing? Did she know or not knew just how difficult it was to get this chance, which many people had tried their best but were still unable to get it? You can also listen on. Cui Yuan Shan would not have thought that to Huang Yueli, she had seen too many of such scenarios. In her past life, she had been to almost all of the ancient mystic regions in Soaring Heaven's continent, and moreover, most of the time, it was always with the man who was beside her. So to her, following her own fiancé into the mystic region for experience learning, was really no different from a spring outing. Huang Yueli acted as though there was nobody else as she observed the surrounding terrain and suddenly tugged Li Moying's sleeve. Moying, did you hear what that old man Cui said? This cloudy Qilin clan was chased out of Soaring Heaven's continent by the sacred phoenix race. Looks like they have a feud with my family clan. Li Moying shot her a glance with a smile. This lass. She looked as though she wasn't paying attention, but in actual fact, she had heard what Cui Yuan Shan was talking about. He lowered his head as he laughed softly. What's the matter? Are you afraid? Perhaps the mystic region has some trap specially set up towards the sacred phoenix race, just waiting to catch a young lass from the sacred phoenix race like you to offer a sacrifice for their ancestors. Huang Yueli couldn't help but give him a punch. What's the meaning of this? How dare you actually scare me? I'm telling you, I'm not afraid. Earlier what I wanted to say is, since it's the enemy's mystic region, then I must try my hardest to search for more treasures and not stand on ceremony with them. Li Moying burst out into laughter. Just admit that you're a money grubber, why bother to find excuses for yourself? Since when have you ever stood on ceremony with anyone? Li Moying, say that one more time. Huang Yueli stared at her own fiancé in an utterly discomfited look. How dare he tear down her stage, simply too much. Didn't he see Moe and the rest giggling secretly by the side? Li Moying especially loved to see her seething look, so he intentionally teased her earlier to make her angry. But he was also afraid that Huang Yueli would really turn her face on him, so on seeing her stomp her feet, he hurriedly stopped while he was still able to. He pointed to the group in front as he attempted to switch the topic. Quickly take a look. The two sex elders are already standing in position, and from the looks of it, they are going to activate the mystic region immediately. Huang Yueli heard this important news and indeed shifted her attention towards the direction which he was pointing at. Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect's 9th stage realm elders had already gathered together, and now they were following Cui Yuan Shan's commands, standing in position on their designated positions. There were a total of 18 elders, and the two sects came out with half each. One could tell that they were standing in position according to a special array position, and instinctively they formed a semicircle shape, whereas the core of the array stood the two sect masters, Cui Yuan Shan and Murongde. After the elders were in position, Cui Yuan Shan didn't announce the activation of the mystic region but let everyone continue to wait. Having waited roughly for more than 1 hour, by now, the sky had turned totally dark and the stage of the new moon slowly shifted towards the east direction. Following the splendor of the moon's rays, the ground of the swamp actually started to surface a mass of thick fog. This mass of fog was originally very thin, but very quickly, it became extremely thick and the boundary of it became wider and wider. Not long after, it started to envelop the entire swamp. What is this? How did it become like this? I'm seeing white everywhere and unable to see the person in front of me. Could it be that the cloudy Chilean mystic region is hidden inside this mass of fog? What's going on? I can't see anything at all. How are we going to activate the mystic region? Almost all of the younger disciples present had not seen such a scenario before, and after realizing that they couldn't see anything clearly, they started to turn panicky. You can also listen on. It was a common sight to Li Moying and Huang Yueli. Before an ancient mystic region surfaced, there was bound to be some form of heteromorphic happening. It was merely a mass of fog and nothing dangerous, so it wasn't something which was worth getting worried over. Although this was the case, Li Moying still subconsciously held Huang Yueli's hand tightly. Huang Yueli laughed. Why are you grabbing my hand so tightly for? My hand is already hurting and I won't be lost. Li Moying gave a cold harumph. You always like to run about, and if I don't grab hold of you tightly, you just leave me on my own and run off. Huang Yueli couldn't help but burst out into laughter. She knew clearly that Li Moying had recalled the events in her past life when she ran off on her own to look for high-leveled materials for armament refining. She held Li Moying's hand and swayed while speaking obediently. In the past I was young and immature, but I won't do that again now. Moreover, I'm still very, very weak now and need a powerful fiancé to protect me, right? Li Moying still gave a cold snort, and although his tone didn't sound any signs of softening up, but the grip on his hand had relaxed by quite a bit, no longer grabbing on his hand tightly, but rather holding on to her gently. Huang Yueli's lips curled. This man was really easy to coax. Just a few sweet nothings settled him totally. Right now, the fog echoed Cui Yuan Shan's loud booming voice. All elders, the auspicious time had reached. I'll count to 3, so will everyone please try your best to inject profound energy towards the array. I beseech everyone not to hold back and do your best. This ancient mystic region has existed for too long and the amount of profound energy required is extreme, whereas we only have a quarter of an hour to prepare. Once we miss this chance, the mystic region will not be activated within the next 10 years. Cui Yuan Shan expressed the severity of this matter and started to count. 3, 2, 1. Start. The minute he finished counting, all the elders did all they could to unleash the profound energy within their bodies totally towards the array. With so many 9th stage realm practitioners making a move all at one go, the air was permeated fully with the might of profound energy, overwhelming with surging waves. Momentarily, some younger disciples couldn't hold on as they started retreating. There were some who even fell onto the ground directly. Luckily the elders were standing in a position which was very far away. Otherwise, the younger disciples here would all be seriously injured. As the profound energy in the array grew abundant, not long after, the fog in the air speedily lightened and started to dissipate at a visible speed. Roughly after a quarter of an hour, the fog completely disappeared. But as it was night time, the surroundings still looked a little misty. An obviously black hole appeared in mid-air, around the height of 2 human and 4 to 5 meters wide. They could tell that this was a passageway, only there was totally no way to see the situation on the other end of the black hole from the exterior. Cui Yuan Shan shouted out again, "All right, now that the ancient mystic region has successfully been activated, the mystic region's entrance can only last for the duration of an incense stick, so those qualified disciples please enter speedily. Lastly, to remind all of you, we will be activating the mystic region for the second time 1 month later, so by then, everyone must arrive at the designated gathering point to wait for us to activate the entrance. If you miss the timing, then you will be trapped inside forever. No one can save you. Now, you may all set off." Everyone was jubilant as they had been waiting for this sentence of Cui Yuan Shan's. Once he finished his last note, several disciples rushed up ahead as they ducked into the black hole without turning back. You can also listen on. The others weren't resigned to being left behind as they all started to chase up, dashing towards the mystic region. Li Moying, however, wasn't in a hurry. This wasn't going to the market to buy vegetables. Surely it didn't mean that being the first few would guarantee fresh vegetables, right? If they really thought in that way, then wouldn't that be a little too naive? There were plenty of dangers and various changes in mystic regions, and in order to obtain a huge chance to gain a rapid promotion required both luck and ability, which if either one was lacking, it would just not do. He held his fiancée's little hand as they walked in a neither fast nor slow pace, with the shadow guards following right behind them. The few of them were already at the end of the group. Moying. Just as they were prepared to enter, Li Moying was suddenly called out by someone. He turned back and saw Murongda standing right behind him bearing an anxious look. Moying, the mystic region is filled with dangers, and because our celestial light sect had obtained 70% quota this time round, there is a large number of disciples who entered the mystic region. But because of this reason, there are many disciples whose ability are much lower have also entered the mystic region, so we don't know if they are able to adapt to the dangers of the mystic region. And although Green Cloud sect's numbers are much lower, but I suspect they have an internal map in their hands, and if our sect's disciples were to meet with them, it would be extremely dangerous. Li Moying understood his unspoken meaning as he said indifferently, Master's meaning is, for me to take care of our sect's disciples? Murongda hurriedly replied, exactly. I also know that you might not be able to take care of so many people, but at the very least, try to keep an eye on your junior brothers and junior sisters. Murongda's worry wasn't out of nowhere. This time, both his daughters, Murong Fei and Murong Enai, were among those who had entered the cloudy Chilan mystic region. This fact made him, their father, felt really lucky but at the same time saddled with worries. In the ancient mystic region, chances and dangers coexisted. If both of his daughters got into trouble, how was he going to explain to his dead wife? Especially Murong Enai. She was only at 4th stage realm cultivation, and originally she would absolutely not be her turn to enter the mystic region. But as there were 2 any quota, that was why she had the chance, but that also meant that the chances of her getting into an accident was much higher. Li Moying narrowed his eyes slightly. Master, you should be very clear that in order to obtain rewards in the mystic region, it would depend on one's own ability and luck before they could roam about in the mystic region. The more critical the situation, the more possibility to obtain a heavenly chance. If they thought of getting my protection, then they would probably not reap any rewards, so they might as well not go take the risk in the mystic region. Murongda was momentarily speechless. Of course he understood whatever Li Moying had said, right? He was only unable to rest his heart. Li Moying paused for a moment and said, I will take note of both junior sister's situation, but as danger lurks all around the mystic region, I'm afraid that most of my time will be on self-protection, so I won't have the extra energy to protect them. Murongda heard his reasonable and logical explanation and could only sigh. Never mind, whether it's a chance or a disaster, it would depend on their own fate. Quickly go in, the activation time of the mystic region is going to be over. Li Moying nodded as he pulled Huang Yueli's small hand and walked into the black hole without turning back. After a short span of time passing through the black hole, Huang Yueli felt that all she could see was darkness, as though she was swallowed entirely in endless darkness and her body floating without any source of support. Immediately following that, she felt a warm sensation on her hand. That was Li Moying holding on tightly to her hand, not refusing to loosen. Huang Yueli instantly felt secured as the flustered feeling in her heart was gone. You can also listen on. No matter where or when, as long as Li Moying was by her side, it made her feel extremely secured, as though there was nothing that her man could not handle. Huang Yueli quickly regained her balance and steadied her footsteps as she followed Li Moying, slowly moving forward. Not long later, the darkness slowly disappeared. It suddenly lit up brightly, and the minute Huang Yueli opened her eyes, she realized that they were already at a picturesque location with beautiful scenery. She turned her head back once again and saw that the black hole behind them had disappeared, and all the disciples who had the quota to enter the mystic region had all entered while the entrance had officially closed up. This meant that this bunch of people here were shut in this mystic region, and they were to spend an entire month's time here. Young disciples sat in groups of 3 to 5 on the lush green grass, but they were not admiring the scenery. On the contrary, they were throwing up while clutching their chests. Right before they entered the mystic region, which one of them weren't filled with ambition and lofty ideas, thinking that the minute they entered this legendary ancient mystic region, they would immediately go on a lucky strike, obtaining a heavenly chance to rush towards the heavens, becoming one of the few top exponents in soaring heaven's continent. The result was, the minute they had just entered the entrance, the majority of them almost tumbled. They had not expected that the interior of the black hole was so black and so dark. This darkness was very different from the normal kind of darkness where there was no light. That was absolute darkness, a kind of darkness origin which made one feel fear and unease right from their bones. Even when Huang Yueli just entered this place, there was also a short moment of time when she felt ill at ease. What more for these young disciples whose experience and mentality was far worse off than hers? Many of them stumbled onto the ground as they totally climbed into the mystic region. Even if they finally saw light now, there were bouts of disgusted feeling in their stomach as they couldn't stop themselves from throwing up. Huang Yueli frowned in disdain. What's all these? The smell is really too pungent. Li Moying was also slightly discomforted. In his past life when he was in his blue profound sect, this kind of soft-legged prawns who couldn't even stand up from such a small matter would have been kicked out of his sect long ago. What more about letting them enter the mystic region? Celestial Light sect and Green Cloud sect indeed couldn't be compared to Sky Emperor City's real powerhouses. The quality of their disciples were indeed on different grades. If you feel disgusted, then don't look. Let's find a quiet place to settle down for a bit. Li Moying tugged Huang Yueli along, as he wanted to leave. Whoever knew, someone had seen them and shouted out loudly, "Eldest senior brother. Don't go. How could you leave alone? I want to follow you guys." The two of them turned around and looked to discover that the person who spoke was Murong Ni, whom they had not seen for quite a long time. Ever since they parted ways in Dark Moon Forest the last time, Murong Ni had something against her conscience, hence she didn't dare to appear in front of Li Moying. Especially after Huang Yueli and Li Moying returned, displaying her powerful armament, refining and cultivation innate talent, Murong Ni felt that all the more she couldn't afford to offend her, hence she didn't dare to find any trouble for Huang Yueli, hiding behind Murong Fei's back to urge her on. Alas, even Murong Fei wasn't Huang Yueli's match. If it was usual times, Murong Ni would absolutely not dare to provoke Huang Yueli and the rest, but unfortunately it was different this time round. As one of the practitioners who were allowed to enter the mystic region, her potential was one of the lowest among the rest, and Murong Ni was very worried that she was not able to leave the mystic region safely. Especially when she went through the black hole earlier. She had already experienced such a horrifying scene, and Murong Ni almost couldn't make it in time to enter the mystic region. She crawled on the ground for exactly a quarter of an hour and barely managed to nudge herself in at the very last moment just before the entrance closed up. You can also listen on. Recalling the scene earlier, Murong Ni was really frightened. Because of this, she didn't care about anything else other than the fact that she must grab hold of eldest senior brother's thigh properly. Based on her own potential alone in this mystic region, it really wasn't anything much, and there were plenty of chances which she could land herself into danger. But if she could obtain Li Moying's protection, that would be totally different. However, even though she had made sound calculations for herself, Li Moying totally didn't fall into her trap. He only gave a fleeting glance towards Murong Ni as he said, "Not free." Saying that, he pulled Huang Yueli and was about to set off on his way. Murong Ni hurriedly screamed loudly, "Eldest senior brother, you cannot leave. Before I entered the mystic region, my father had already told me that he will get you to protect me, and elder sister's safety in the mystic region. How could you not obey my father's words? You must bring me along." Li Moying gave a cold humph, "Just based on your guts and you have the cheek to come in for experience learning. If you had known this earlier, then you ought to give up your quota to someone else. There are plenty of disciples who want to come in. It's not possible for me to bring you along, so just drop the matter." Saying that, he totally ignored Murong Ni's screams as he hurriedly dragged Huang Yueli away. Murong Ni was simply so anxious that she was about to cry out loudly as she turned around. "Elder sister, why didn't you say anything? Eldest senior brother, he's really going to leave." Murong Fei was standing by the side watching Murong Ni sprawled on the ground still vomiting, and the ugly sight of her sobbing as she really didn't want to admit that she and her were biological sisters. She spoke out disdainfully, "Enough, stop crying. Still not embarrassed enough? Since we've already entered the mystic region, then we're here for experience learning, not for you to go on a scenic tour. There are plenty of chances among danger, so everyone has to rely on oneself. Elder sister, don't you want to go experience learning with eldest senior brother? Are you willing to see eldest senior brother bringing that little slut along, behaving intimately?" Murong Ni asked in disbelief. Murong Fei's expression turned slightly ugly. Of course she didn't want to see Huang Yueli and Li Moying behaving intimately. Heaven knows just how upset her heart was when she saw the two of them clasping their hands tightly and how intimately they conversed with each other. But she had entered the mystic region today to achieve something big. She was going to eliminate that irritating little slut forever so that she was able to be with eldest senior brother forever. Li Lingchuan had already told her that as long as she followed his plan, they would be able to let that little slut have no burial ground. Thinking of this, Murong Fei forcefully suppressed the jealousy rooted in her heart. Forget it, just let that little slut be more complacent for a little while more. Anyway, she was going to be a dead corpse very soon and she absolutely could not leave this mystic region. Eldest senior brother, he was going to be hers, Murong Fei's eventually. Murong Fei spoke against her own feelings. Experience learning is experience learning, raising our own potential is more important than anything else. In this mystic region, real chances cannot be shared with anyone else, so it's impossible for top exponents to group up with anyone. Stop thinking too much and be off. I am leaving as well. Murong Ni's eyes widened. Sister, even you are not going to bring me. Then what should I do? She had not expected Murong Fei to actually disregard their sisterly relationship, leaving her in the lurch over here. Murong Fei said, "This is experience learning and not a scenic tour trip. If you're really afraid, then just stay here and wait to leave the mystic region after 1 month. I think it's pretty safe over here." She couldn't hold herself back from wanting to harm Huang Yueli now, so why would she even be bothered with her sister? You can also listen on. Elder sister, wait for me. Murong Ni kept shouting behind Murong Fei's back. Murong Fei pretended not to hear as she turned around to leave. After Huang Yueli and Li Moying left, they could still hear the sisters' arguments faintly. Huang Yueli's brows rose as she stared at the man beside her. Li Moying was stared at by her when he suddenly felt a chill running down his spine while asking hurriedly, "Lear, what do you want to say?" Huang Yueli questioned him beamingly, "I'd not expected that you really ignored Murong and I. I thought what? Thought I would bring her along. Why would I want to bring along an irritating fellow?" Li Moying frowned. Huang Yueli replied, because your master specially instructed that you must take good care of your junior sisters, so I thought you probably wouldn't reject her." Li Moying suddenly thought of something as he lowered his head and met the bright big eyes with its black and white part clearly segregated. The young lady by his side suddenly kept blinking while bearing an innocent expression, but was unable to conceal the joy hidden inside her eyes. Li Moying shook his head while laughing. "You are really a little vinegar jar. If you're really afraid that I'd bring her along, just directly chase her away. Why didn't you get worked up earlier and only start to tease me now?" Huang Yueli pouted her lips as she mumbled, "I don't even know what you're thinking of, isn't it? She is after all your junior sister and your master's biological daughter. If you long wanted to bring her along, how would I dare to go against you?" Li Moying saw her pampered and arrogant look as he couldn't help finding it comical. He locked her waist and brought her into his embrace, while leaning near to her ear as he gave a low laugh. "Have you even considered the fact that Murong and I had once tried to assassinate you when your ability was still very weak? Although you've become strong enough now and not afraid of her taking any underhanded methods, how could I possibly place someone who had once harmed you by your side? I've already given my master enough face by not going to find trouble for her, and yet he still expects me to take care of her. How could that even be possible?" He stretched out his hand and brushed Huang Yueli's hair strands gently. "Rest assured, no matter when, I will take your thoughts as first consideration, and if there's anything which made you dissatisfied, just raise your concerns on the spot. I will absolutely not tear down your stage and follow according to my wife's thoughts to handle, all right?" Huang Yueli's heart immediately got lifted up as she revealed a smile. But when she met Li Moying's mocking gaze, she immediately swallowed her laughter as she resumed the pampered look. "Can do that barely. But I'm not your wife, so don't you go saying I'm your wife." She put on a solemn expression as she said that. Li Moying felt that she was just too adorable as he lowered his head and wanted to kiss her. Huang Yueli abruptly recalled the fact that they were in the mystic region now and immediately covered his lips, which was leaning over. "Don't you come over. Brother Moe and the others are still watching on from the sides." Li Moying didn't manage to sneak a kiss successfully, so he was extremely disappointed as he frowned slightly and straightened his body. This time round he had brought 10 over people along. His shadow guards were all 5th stage realm and above and had all been brought along into the cloudy Chilan mystic region. These people really needed to go through a good round of experience learning. Their abilities in Celestial Light Sect indeed wasn't considered weak, but when he returned to Sky Emperor City in future, this bunch's cultivation was not enough at all. Although he still had some subordinates in Blue Profound Sect, but 15 years had already passed and no one knew if anything had changed, so they might not be as reliable as the current Shadow Guards. You can also listen on. Other than that, Luo Jiyun also followed them, but the quota he used was one which Murongde had reserved for his own disciples. For Huang Yueli's side, the few subordinates she took in didn't have enough ability, hence she only brought along Yuan Ziyu. Although Yuan Ziyu was only in the 4th stage realm, but he had already undergone Moe's demonic training and also practiced a few heaven-grade profound skills which Huang Yueli had passed down to him. His battle power among same-leveled practitioners was absolutely first-rate. Even if he had to cross realms and fought against a 5th stage entry-level top expert, he would not be at a disadvantage. These people were following Huang Yueli and Li Moying at a distance far away. Looking at their intimate exchanges, this bunch of people were long used to it as they started to look up into the sky, putting on a "I didn't see anything" expression. Luo Jiyun even laughed as he said, "Eldest senior brother, sister-in-law, the scenery in the mystic region is not too bad, eh?" Haha, the others repeated in agreement, "Yes, yes, the scenery isn't too bad." Huang Yueli looked at their cover-up, which only made it look more conspicuous, and simply wanted to vomit up blood. Did they need to be so fake? Did they really need it to be so fake? Why don't they just directly make themselves blind instead? Not only was Huang Yueli furious, Even Li Moying felt that it was too troublesome to have too many tails following behind them. He opened his mouth and said, "All right, since we've already entered the mystic region, you guys don't need to follow us around and all split up to find your own experience learning chance." Everyone was stunned, but no one made a move at all. Moe hesitated for a moment and stood out. "Master, this mystic region is filled with dangers all around, and if you and Third Miss are alone, what happens if you meet with danger?" "Your subordinate is worried," Li Moying said disapprovingly. "If there's really danger, am I the one who will protect you guys, or you guys protect me?" Moe and the rest were rendered speechless. Having an abnormally powerful master was an embarrassing thing. He had trained so hard to overcome all the difficulties and finally completed the Shadow Guard's training, but in the end he discovered that he became his future mistress's errand boy and underling. Li Moying continued, "This time it's a rare chance to enter the cloudy Qilin mystic region. In this kind of ancient mystic region, chances are everywhere, but however much you can reap from it will depend on your own fate. I brought you guys a knot so that you can follow and protect me, but in the hope that you can all raise your own abilities. What I want is not underlings nor errand boys, but shadow guards with real abilities, do you understand?" Everyone shivered as they hurriedly responded, "Yes. All of you go on your own experience learning and don't group up together. Lone experience learning will reap the greatest chance. Jiyun, you two leave on your own. You have the sect's aid token, and if you really meet danger, just shoot out the token and I will go to save you." Luo Jiyun immediately replied, "Eldest senior brother, just rest assured and go on with Lil's sister-in-law. This isn't my first time out gaining experience, so I can take care of myself." Li Moying waved his hand and those little tails behind them instantly dispersed. Within a few breaths of time, they had all completely disappeared without a trace. Huang Yueli gasped with amazement as she sighed, "Young sect masterly, your level of conning people really make me respect you." Li Moying gave a soft snort as his gaze fell onto her fair delicate face. "Why? Where did I say wrongly? My original intentions were for their own good." Huang Yueli blinked, "Really? I thought you despised them for being too irritating." "Since you know about it," Li Moying smiled slightly as he lowered his head and placed his lips onto hers. "You can also listen on. Quickly look, there's a plot of extreme fiery obsidian stone mine. Let's hurry over, I want to collect all of it. This is an 8th tier ore, and there's so many of it. I want to bring everything back." Huang Yueli pointed to a little mountain not too far away as she cried out in excitement, and when Li Moying wasn't paying attention, she slipped away from him as she lifted her dress hem, running off swiftly. Li Moying chased up to her within a few steps and held her gently into his embrace. "Why did you run off so quickly? Aren't you a little too careless? It's not your first time entering a mystic region for experience learning. Being so careless, beware that you fall into some trap." Huang Yueli replied disapprovingly, How could that be? I've read about the relative introductions in ancient manuals records on this extreme fiery obsidian stone. Although the level of this mine is extremely high, but there aren't many magical beasts hanging in wait nearby because the ore itself contains a powerful quantity of fire-attributed energy, and if it wasn't 9th grade magical beasts and above, they totally couldn't take it. Only fire-attributed practitioners who have 9th grade talent are able to get close to it. Saying that, she pushed aside her sticky fiancé. "Alright, I'm off to gather the ores. Relax, based on my fire-attributed innate talent, gathering the extreme fiery obsidian stones is super safe, so just wait here for me." After Huang Yueli completed what she had to say, she didn't even took another look at Li Moying as she sped off impatiently towards the ore mine. In her eyes, there was no longer the existence of a fiancé, as her entire heart and eyes were filled with her beloved armament refining materials. Li Moying's expression instantly went stiff as his lips twitched, feeling both melancholic and helpless. Practically 15 years had passed by, but her Lear was still exactly the same as in her past life. For a little armament refining material, she could totally ignore a glamorous handsome male, which directly gave a psychological blow to a man's confidence. Wasn't it just some pieces of broken stones? Would flowers even grow out from it? It actually made his fiancée shift her affections away from him. Li Moying gazed at the ore mine as though he was looking at a living third party. He was melancholic for a while, but very unfortunately, Huang Yueli had totally sprawled herself on the ore mine, starting to dig out pieces and pieces of ore stone, totally not free to notice him. Li Moying could only chase up to her swiftly as he proactively leaned in close to his fiancée to fawn upon her. "Lear, let me help you. How do I get this ore stone out?" Directly knock the entire piece off. Huang Yueli was dumbstruck for a moment, apparently not expecting that he would appear at this place. Wait, why are you here?" Li Moying saw that she finally was willing to look at him straight in his eyes as he couldn't help but gave a smile. "Why can't I be here?" Huang Yueli frowned. "Haven't I said this earlier?" The ancient records mentioned that only 9th grade fire attributed innate talent practitioners could get close to the extreme fiery obsidian stone mine. Could there be a recording error in the ancient records? Li Moying's lips curled slightly. The ancient records didn't record it wrongly. Then how did you? Huang Yueli was stunned as she swiftly regained her senses. "Wait, don't tell me you also have 9th grade fire attributed innate talent." Li Moying gave a soft laugh. "Why? You are a complete attribute 9th grade talent, so why isn't it possible that I have 9th grade fire attributed innate talent?" But, Huang Yueli's eyes grew wide. Li Moying didn't say anything wrong. The talents under the heavens were not just confined to her, and Li Moying's innate talent was so abnormal, so whatever happened was considered as normal. You can also listen on. However, she still found it strange. "But I have a flame spirit physique, rumored to be a rare innate talent physique in God realm, so that was why I have a complete attribute 9th grade innate talent." "Then could it also be another kind of spirit physique?" Huang Yuelu kept thinking and found this to be the most possible case as she pursued it in curiosity. Her sudden large eyes were bright and crystal clear, as she stared intently at Li Moying, making that man's heart swayed. However, he shrugged his shoulders. "I don't know." "Don't know?" Li Moying replied, "I'm not like you. After your rebirth you adopted an ancient spiritual beast as a spiritual beast and even obtained God realm's cultivation method. After I woke up, I had no memories from my past life and was totally clueless about my own innate talent. I only know that ever since my master brought me back to Celestial Light Sect, my cultivation speed has always been extraordinarily fast, even faster than in my past life. Moreover, I could acquire whatever attribute profound skills easily, but I still prefer thunder-attributed cultivation methods." Huang Yueli was dumbstruck. "So you are majoring in thunder-attributed cultivation methods now purely because of the influence from your past life, liking the thunder attribute the most?" Li Moying replied, "You can put it in that way." Huang Yueli stared at him for half a day before spitting out the words, "Abnormal pervert." She thought that her own innate talent was already ridiculous enough and had not expected that her own fiancé would actually be even more ridiculous than her by 10,000 times. In this way, his complete attribute innate talent was likely much higher than 9th grade. Was this possible? Was it something which humans could possibly derive at? Just as Huang Yueli was in a daze, she suddenly sensed a burst of scorching breath nearing her. Li Moying leaned in and secretly kissed her. Discovering her still shocked expression, he was feeling rather delighted in his heart. This was the first time his Lear had actually forgot totally about the armament refining materials and just used all her might to stare at him, displaying an extreme admiration expression towards him. He had met tons of women who admired him, but only Huang Yueli's face made him felt so complacent. "I know you like a pervert like me, but didn't you say you wanted to gather these ores?" still not going to grab hold of time tightly. In another 4 hours or lesser, the sky is going to turn dark. Hearing Li Moying words, Wang Yueli abruptly realized, oh, I actually forgot my ore stones. She turned her head backwards as she immodestly told Li Moying, since you are not repelled by it, then don't be lazy and come over to help. See those faint white patterns on those black obsidian stones? It looks unclear, but against the sunlight, you can see the silver strands. Follow those patterns and inject fire attributed profound energy and the ore will be separated and drop down. Then place all the pieces into your space. That'll do. Quick, you're not allowed to be lazy. After she finished instructing him, she totally ignored Li Moying and continued to busy herself with digging ores. Li Moying followed behind her without any complaints despite the hardships and criticism as he helped her dig the entire hill empty. After they finished digging the ores, Wang Yueli finally left in satisfaction. But halfway on their route, she suddenly appeared slightly disappointed. This time we have gained quite a bit. This cloudy Chilean mystic region seemed a little too safe and a little too quiet. Not only are there not many dangers, there aren't many chances as well. Other than the picturesque scenery, it didn't seem as though there's any special points. Hadn't Green Cloud Sex people said that this was a mystic region which was passed down from several thousand years ago? Could they be lying to us? You can also listen on. If these words of hers fell onto those disciples who had entered the mystic region, they would absolutely throw up blood on the spot. Because Huang Yueli and Li Moying had already collected many treasures on their way. For example, the extreme fiery obsidian stone mine, that was priceless, and just one small piece of ore in Sky Emperor City's auctions would be auctioned at an astonishing heavenly price. Whereas this kind of ore mine, Wang Yueli had already dug several of it in the past few days. To ordinary disciples, even if they picked up a piece of 8th grade ore was already considered as a huge chance. Li Moying on the other hand had smoothly killed several 8th grade magical beasts and removed its magical beast core. He also passed the assessment at another underground palace which the forefathers had left behind, obtaining an entire set of heaven-grade upper-level cultivation methods. Just casually walking around was a huge chance. But 8th grade magical beasts to ordinary disciples were absolutely a life-and-death huge crisis. There was a 99% chance that they would lose their lives if they met with it. In the end, in Huang Yueli's words, it was both safe and no chances around. However, Li Moying understood what she was thinking. That's right, this place is indeed a little too quiet. Perhaps it is because we had been traveling around the outer boundary. The real chances in the mystic regions are usually in the center. Only, are you sure that you want us to proceed to the center region? Huang Yueli hesitated for a moment. We can get a little closer towards the center but not really enter it. After all, our abilities this time round aren't really adequate. She was a little unreconciled, but she had no choice but to consider the practicability of the problem. In the past, when she and Mu Qingying entered mystic regions, both of them were both at 9th stage realm cultivations and their potentials were simply tyrannical, so naturally they had nothing to fear. But this time, they were just at 7th stage realm and 5th stage realm. The disparity in their abilities was indeed a little too large, and if they just ran in abruptly, it wasn't just a risk, it was to send themselves to death. The both of them were conversing when they suddenly heard a burst of thunder like loud sound in the sky. At the same time, far away in the mountains, a bolt of blinding bright light shone, lighting up the entire sky until it turned as bright as daylight. That bolt of strong light lasted briefly, and after a few breaths, it started to dim. Huang Yueli's eyes lit up. Quickly look over there. This kind of abnormality, a rare treasure must be appearing. Let's go over quickly to take a look. Li Moying nodded as he chased up to her. Their footsteps were rather fast, but there was no way to use transportation tools such as flying ships to replace their legs, and as they were very far away from the location where the bright light shone, they practically had to travel at least half of the mystic region. Hence, although they tried their best to rush over, they also spent roughly 1.5 days' time. By the time the both of them had reached the anticipated location, they saw quite a number of people who had gathered nearby. Other than a few minority, a large portion of Celestial Light sect and Green Cloud sect's disciples had already appeared at the ground level of the mountain. Everyone were disciples of a large sect, so they had more or less heard of the strange occurrences which might appear when a rare treasure appeared. From the strange occurrences that had happened, their first reaction was, "There's a huge chance." Hence everyone rushed over to this place, and those who couldn't come were either trapped somewhere or they were just too far away, so they hadn't arrived. As the ground level of the mountain was very near the entrance of the mystic region, many of them had been lingering nearby, not daring to travel further away, hence they had all reached pretty early. After they arrived, they saw the ground level filled with people, and very naturally, they segregated into two groups according to their sects. You can also listen on. By the time Huang Yueli and Li Moying arrived, both sects had been in a stalemate for quite a period of time. They already heard the argument coming from the ground level when they were still quite a distance away. This cave dwelling is obviously discovered by our Celestial Light sect disciples, so what right do you Green Cloud sect have to stick a pole into, thinking of snatching the treasure? Luo Jiyun's voice was heard. Immediately following that, Feng Xiaoning's cold laughter was heard. What a joke! You had indeed discovered the cave dwelling, but have you successfully entered it? Have you gotten the rare treasure in it? All the treasures in this cloudy Qilan mystic region don't belong to anyone, so the one with the most ability gets it. You don't have the ability and can't enter, and yet you're not allowing others to enter. Luo Jiyun was obviously upset by that. For you to know that there's a treasure here is all because our people had activated the array on the outer boundary, isn't it? If not for this, there wouldn't be that blinding strong light at all. So what about it? You guys can't enter and activated the array, which could only mean that you're all useless. Since you don't have the ability, then stop wasting time. Scram to one side and don't make us deal with you. Feng Xiaoning was totally immodest as he spoke. Originally, when they were outside the mystic region, although the two sects were having a competing relationship, but due to reputation, they couldn't openly provoke the other party nor attack them. But now that they were in the mystic region, there were no outsiders around, while the temptation of the rare treasure was placed right in front of them. This round, both sects had completely tore their faces as they prepared to let their fists do the talking. Luo Jiyun also realized that talking reason was useless, as he was so angry that he started trembling. You all, simply bullying others intolerably. Feng Xiaoning gave a chilly smile. Mr. Luo, you're not young anymore, so how could you so be naive? Whoever's ability is stronger will obtain more resources. This is originally Soaring Heaven's continent survival rule. We are bullying intolerably. It's obvious that Celestial Light sect has more people, but unfortunately your potential is so weak. If I were you, I would not have the face to stay on any further. Quickly scram. Hearing such intense arguing, Huang Yueli turned her head in astonishment as she exchanged glances with Li Moying, and the both of them quickly hastened up their footsteps. When they got nearer, they discovered that the scene had evidently just turned into a battleground. Green Cloud sect's people were much lesser, while Celestial Light sect's disciples were much more. However, the majority of those who were laid on the ground with serious injury and not being able to get up were mostly Celestial Light sect's disciples. Even Luo Jiyun sustained a heavy injury as the blood on the wounds on his body kept flowing. It was obvious that even though Green Cloud sect's numbers were lesser, but their overall combat abilities were much higher than Celestial Light sect's. Green Cloud sect's total combat ability was on a higher rung and included the fact that the two sects' top battle powers were not present. On Green Cloud sect's side, other than Lang Yifeng alone, the other top experts in their sect were all present. But Celestial Light sect was short of quite a number of people. Li Moying, Huang Yuli, Murong Fei, Li Lingchuan were all not present. Even Mo Er and the rest had not arrived in time, so there was only Luo Jian alone who pitifully tried to hold up the scenario, so he totally couldn't hang on for long. Luo Jian was ridiculed by Fang Xiaoning so much that even his nose turned crooked. The problem was he couldn't find any words to rebuke at all. Because what Fang Xiaoning said was the truth. Celestial Light sect's disciples were at least double of Green Cloud sect's, but in the earlier intense battle, Celestial Light sect was totally not their match as they were beaten pants down. You can also listen on. Celestial Light sect was short of top-leveled talented practitioners, and no matter how many ordinary disciples they had, it was of no use. But if they wanted to make Luo Jian leave like that, he wouldn't feel resigned at all. This cave dwelling was discovered by him and a few other Celestial Light sect's disciples. In order to enter it, they tried various methods, and in the end they accidentally triggered the mechanism, hence attracting so many people. They had already wasted 4 to 5 days' time here and was just one step away from success, but now someone else had stuck their leg in to pick up the advantages. How would they feel reconciled? Luo Jian clenched his teeth as he stared at Fang Xiaoning. You. Fang Xiaoning, don't be too complacent for now. Earlier that burst of bright light was earth-shattering, so it's not possible that only you guys saw it. The top experts in our sect are definitely on their way here. If eldest senior brother appears, he will definitely not let you off. Fang Xiaoning heard what he said and couldn't help but start bursting out in laughter. Ha ha ha, Luo Jian, your joke is very funny. Young sect master Li's ability is indeed strong enough, but he hasn't reached yet, so he must be trapped somewhere. This cloudy Qilan mystic region is so big, so who knows what could have happened. Moreover speaking, by the time he arrives, I'd have gotten the treasure in the cave dwelling, so where would he go to find me? Green Cloud sect's other disciples all started laughing. Isn't that so? This bunch of Celestial Light sect trash only knows how to rely on Li Moying alone. Leaving Li Moying, they're no different from a homeless dog. Unfortunately, this is the cloudy Qilan mystic region, not Celestial Light sect. Would Li Moying be able to rush over to save your life? Rather than waiting for Li Moying to arrive, why not you guys kowtow to us now? Perhaps we might even leave those treasures left over for you. Fang Xiaoning said, all right, stop the nagging. If you're not going to leave, then I'd really not maintain this politeness anymore. Luo Jian clenched his teeth tightly, but in the end he was still prepared to leave. He himself wasn't afraid of a life and death struggle, but so many of his comrades were seriously injured, so he simply couldn't disregard their life and death. Just as Luo Jian was about to turn around and leave, he suddenly saw from the corner of his eye, in the frontal right direction of the forest, 2 figures walked out slowly. His eyes immediately widened with astonishment as he froze there and then. Why are you not leaving? Need us to send you off? Fang Xiaoning totally didn't detect anything amiss. Luo Jian suddenly gave a cry of surprise as he shouted out, eldest senior brother. Sister-in-law. You're finally here. For him to see their timely appearance now, Luo Jian was simply so touched that he was going to cry. Fang Xiaoning and the rest had their backs facing Li Moying originally, so they didn't notice his existence. But on hearing Luo Jian screech, everyone's faces started to reveal a shocked and fearful expression. As the saying went, a man's name, a tree's shadow. They had not even seen a fragment of Li Moying's shadow, and just from hearing his name, they were all so scared that their sweat started trickling down. You, don't even think of scaring me. How could Li Moying suddenly appear out of nowhere so coincidentally? Fang Xiaoning thought something was amiss and immediately calmed himself down, ascertaining that it must be Luo Jian's scheme to get out of this difficult situation. However, the last note of his sentence had just fallen when a familiar mellow man's voice rang from behind his back. How do you know that it is not possible for this lord to appear here? That biting cold, mighty, unexcelled voice sounded so familiar that no one would ever get it wrong. Green Cloud's sex disciples all abruptly had a change of colors as their complexions turned extremely pale in an instant. You can also listen on. Earlier when they ridiculed Luo Jiyun, all of them were extremely arrogant as though they weren't afraid of Li Moying appearing. But now that they saw Li Moying appear, all of them felt extremely terrified. Because everyone present had witnessed with their own eyes how powerful Li Moying was. They knew that even if all of Green Cloud's sex people present were to combine their forces together, it might not even be enough to give him a smack. Only Lang Yifeng was able to receive 2 or 3 moves from Li Moying, but unfortunately he wasn't around. Furthermore, Li Moying was cold-blooded and overbearing by nature, so if they were to offend him, no matter what method they used, there was absolutely no way that he would show mercy on them. Li Moying and Huang Yueli walked side by side out of the forest. A pair of good-looking couple intimately walked over. In terms of looks, they were almost perfect, which was an eye candy. But to the Green Cloud sect, they didn't even have the courage to look at them straight in the eye as all of them lowered their heads, wishing that a large hole suddenly appeared on the ground, letting them all hide inside. To let Li Moying witness how they bullied and suppressed his junior brother, what was the consequence of this? It really made one don't dare to think further. But when Celestial Light's sex disciples saw the both of them, they all started cheering. Young Sect Master is finally here. Great, we are finally saved. Look at those people from Green Cloud sect, aren't they too comical? Earlier weren't they acting stuck up? Didn't they ask us to scram? Now that young Sect Master is here, let's see who it is that will scram. That's right, dare to call us trash. In young Sect Master's eyes, aren't you all trash too? Hearing Celestial Light sex disciples' ridicules, Green Cloud sex people totally didn't dare to rebuke. Not that they didn't want to, but because Li Moying was right here. Even though he hadn't made a move or even used a little bit of his profound energy, but just at the moment when he spoke out, the situation had completely reversed. Li Moying's frigid gaze shot towards Fang shouting, "Mr. Fang, how have you been? Just a month ago you were having a battle with my fiancé on the arena stage, which made me had a deep impression of you. I'd not expected that I'd meet you so quickly in the Mystic region." Fang Xiaoning was originally still trying his best to stay strong as he stood straight upright. But on hearing his words, his knees went weak as he almost knelt down. Li Moying's meaning was very obvious. He wanted to settle the debt of almost seriously injuring Huang Yueli on that day. Only, before he was able to settle old debts, he had once again fallen into Li Moying's hands. Li. Young Sect Master Li, I didn't intentionally. You should know that on the arena stage, everyone is acting on the sect's benefits. I had not realized the severity of my moves, and as I was overly agitated during the tournament, I was in a daze. I can apologize to Miss Bai. Saying that, Fang Xiaoning shot up like an arrow towards Huang Yueli and with his hands clasped into a fist, he bowed towards her. Miss Bai, I'm wrong. I had dealt with a heavy hand by mistake on the arena stage, so if there's any places which I had offended you, I seek your understanding for that. He bent his waist low, as he showed his attitude, waiting for Huang Yueli to accept his apology. From what Fang Xiaoning thought, battle between practitioners was bound to result in slight injuries. He had already apologized on his own, so if Huang Yueli refused to accept, that would be something unacceptable. Whoever knew, his apology was already out, but Huang Yueli didn't make a sound or any response. In this way, Fang Xiaoning was instantly embarrassed. Because he didn't receive Huang Yueli's acknowledgement, so he couldn't stand up straight. Otherwise, what kind of apology was that counted as? You can also listen on. But maintaining this posture of bending the waist, even for high-level practitioners, it was an extremely tough matter. Besides that, the ache was secondary. To be left in the cold by someone like that in such a humiliating posture, it was absolutely leaving his face onto the ground for them to step on. Feng Xiaoning only felt a fiery sensation on his face as he almost burned up. But now that matters had come to such a pass, under Li Moying's frigid cold stare, he didn't dare to stand up straight, nor did he dare to turn tables with Huang Yueli. A quarter of an hour went by and Huang Yueli still didn't make any sound to accept his apology. By now, Celestial Light Sect's disciples had all started laughing. "Great job, junior sister Bai. Show him some colors." "That's right. The last time at the arena stage, he obviously had the intention to kill you, what's called accidentally mishandled. Why don't you go lie to a ghost?" "Correct, if apologizing is of use, then what's the use of having constables around?" Feng Xiaoning was so angry that his chest started to hurt, and a slight taste of blood could be tasted in his mouth. Huang Yueli waited for a while more before she opened her mouth indifferently. "Master Feng, why so modest? I hadn't put the matter regarding the arena stage in my heart, so you need not specially apologize for it." Feng Xiaoning was simply going to faint from anger. Didn't put it in her heart. Then still left him in the cold like that. This was simply having it both ways. However, before he opened his mouth, Huang Yueli continued, "But my own matters, I can forget about it. However, you had defamed our Celestial Light Sect and even injured so many Celestial Light Sect's disciples, this matter cannot be let off easily like that." Feng Xiaoning clenched his teeth, then. "Miss Bai, what do you want me to do?" Huang Yueli laughed. "I've always been magnanimous and won't force my requests on anyone. If you're really regretful, then apologizing to all those poor disciples whom you had injured earlier will do. Earlier when you apologized to me, your attitude was rather earnest, so you must use the same kind of attitude towards them. I believe that they will forgive you." Huang Yueli was beaming and her tone was gentle. The words which she spoke out were courteous and polite without any fiery power to it, neither did it consist of any sense which made things difficult for him. But every single one of those present understood the meaning in her words. All of them were trembling in fear, secretly thinking that this method of hers was just too vicious. Feng Xiaoning saw black and almost fainted. Actually, to apologize to Huang Yueli, although he did feel humiliated, but it was still acceptable. After all, Huang Yueli had once defeated him directly on the arena stage, which meant that her innate talent and ability was far above his. To bow one's head low towards the strong wasn't an embarrassing thing. But what Huang Yueli wanted now was for him to apologize to those ordinary disciples who were injured by him. What kind of joke was that? These people were all defeated by him and couldn't even take on one move from him. What right did these trash had to deserve his apology? Towards these kind of lowly trashy people, it was a waste of effort to even beat them up, and there was no reason for the strong to apologize to the weak. Moreover, Huang Yueli requested for his attitude to be as earnest as earlier. How to be earnest? Surely he needed to be left in the cold by so much trash. And to bend his waist and lower his head towards these trash. This was even more unbearable than taking his life. Feng Xiaoning simply couldn't endure it any further. "Miss Bai, please don't bully others intolerably. To fight over treasures in mystic regions had always been based on one's own ability. This is the rule in Soaring Heaven's continent. Who can they blame when their abilities are so weak? You can also listen on." When Huang Yueli heard that, she shot a glance at him and her lips curled up slightly. "You're talking to me about rules? Since that's the case, then let's handle this according to Soaring Heaven's continent's rules." She paused and continued, "Master Feng should know what is the general outcome for the party who is on the losing end of fighting for treasure in mystic regions, right?" When Feng Xiaoning heard that, he suddenly thought of something as his face turned pale. You're not thinking of, Huang Yueli smiled as she continued, you're the one who said to handle this according to rules. Quite a number of Green Cloud's sex disciples all understood the meaning in her words as their complexions turned even paler. But Luo Jiyun was totally puzzled. Lil sister-in-law, what do you mean by that? What's the outcome for those who failed in fighting for the treasure? Huang Yueli smiled, what else? In order to prevent those people who failed from intentionally leaking out news of the treasure, eliminating them is the entire Soaring Heaven Continent's common way. For someone like him who dares to make impertinent remarks, just burying him alive in a pit is considered as showing mercy. Fong Xiaoning abruptly had a change of colors. By Ruoli, you don't even think just threatening me like that and I'd be afraid. Do you have the guts to do so? We have so many people here and they're all Green Cloud's sex disciples. Can you kill us all? Aren't you afraid that when the matter is exposed, our sect master would blame you for it? Huang Yueli blinked her big eyes, but, if you're all dead, how would the matter be exposed? But there are so many of us, how could you possibly? Fong Xiaoning's words were by his mouth when he suddenly saw the cold-faced Li Moying behind Huang Yueli as he immediately shuddered, not daring to speak any further. Huang Yueli indeed couldn't possibly kill them all, but Li Moying indeed had this ability to do so. Moreover, he had always been fearless, resolute in his massacres. If he were really to eliminate them all, he would absolutely be efficient in not leaving any person alive. Li Moying gave a cold humph as he slowly walked towards Huang Yueli and opened his mouth, do according to what Miss Bai said, otherwise, his voice was very soft but when it fell onto Green Cloud sex people's ears, it sounded like a demon's voice from Hades. Especially when he spoke, his surrounding might was also unleashed at the same time and in an instant, an intense suppressing feeling caused everyone present to be unable to breathe as their legs went weak. Those practitioners with weaker cultivations instantly couched onto the ground, not able to climb up at all. Fong Xiaoning was appalled as he didn't dare to say anything more. He immediately walked to the front of Luo Jiyun as he suddenly bowed, clenching his teeth as he said, Master Luo, I've offended you earlier so please be magnanimous to forgive me. Luo Jiyun took a good look at Fong Xiaoning who had acted as though he was on a world above others earlier on and now how the tables have turned to suddenly bow humbly before him and seek his forgiveness. His mood was suddenly lifted as the humiliation and embarrassment which he felt earlier instantly disappeared into thin air. Fong Xiaoning, aren't you extremely complacent earlier? Did you think that my eldest senior brother was not able to reach here in time? Fong Xiaoning's anger if he knew earlier that Li Moying was on his way here, he would have applied oil to his feet as he slipped away quickly, so how could it be possible that he still remained here? But now, nothing he said mattered anymore. Yes, it's all my fault. I'd like to ask Master Luo for your understanding. Fong Xiaoning almost crunched his teeth. Luo Jiyun then waved his hand, forget it, next time just remember to use your brain before you talk because not everyone is as easygoing as me. After Fong Xiaoning was taunted for a moment, he felt extremely stuffed. But he had no choice but to reply, thank you Master Luo. You can also listen on. When this sentence was spilled out, Fong Xiaoning felt that he was especially wretched. Other people slapped his face and he still thanked them for it. This, to a naturally arrogant talented practitioner was a huge humiliation. However, things had not come to an end. Luo Jiyun was just the beginning. Moreover, Luo Jiyun's character was kind and he did not intentionally make things difficult for him. It was those other direct disciples from Celestial Light sect who were the toughest to handle as many of them were meaner in their words than Luo Jiyun. If it was usual times, Fong Xiaoning would have exploded from anger long ago and would absolutely tear these insolent things to shreds. But now with Li Moying and Huang Yueli around, he could only swallow his anger in silence. The only comfort was after Huang Yueli took a look around, she suddenly opened her mouth. Why is Master Fong the only one apologizing? It seems that he is not the only one who beat them up, right? Looks like some people prefer to be buried alive. Green Cloud Sec's other disciples originally thought of hook-winking them as they kept their heads low, not even daring to breathe loudly. In the end, they had not thought that Huang Yueli actually didn't forget about them. Helplessly, the other disciples could only follow Fang Xiaoning to line up and apologize to the others. Celestial Light Sect's disciples were extremely excited. Indeed, following young sect master around was different. No matter which peerless talent was present, as long as the young sect master was around, they only had the fate of bending down. He was really the peerless genius in the South Sky region. Momentarily, many of them started to envy Moe and the rest. No wonder they were practitioners with such cultivations but were willing to follow Li Moying around to be his shadow guards. Following this kind of master was simply too shiok. Some of them even started to have thoughts that if they had the chance to follow young sect master around, it'd be great. If they didn't follow young sect master, following Miss Bai was not a bad idea as well. The fluctuating sounds of apologies did not consolidate Huang Yueli and Li Moying's thoughts on these people. Huang Yueli's gaze had always been on the entrance of the cave dwelling as she frowned slightly before she started to ponder deeply. This was a lavish and spacious cave dwelling. Just the residence door itself was 10 meters tall, 5 to 6 meters wide, looking very stylish. Whereas on the topmost area of the door hung an inscribed board with some illegible words on it. Wu Ding. Looks like the religious name of the owner of this cave dwelling should be Wu Ding. Huang Yueli took a long look at it before she could tell what the words were. This kind of early historical words left behind in the ancient times were only recognized by those practitioners who had broad knowledge. Li Moying hooked her waist as he brought her into his embrace, asking in a mellow voice, "How is it? Can you tell anything from this? How should we enter from here?" In terms of battle to awe the entire scene, naturally Li Moying had the greatest ability, but when it came to opening the mechanisms of cave dwellings, his Lear was a professional at it. Huang Yueli muttered softly, "This sage Wu Ding should be someone with an extremely powerful existence in the Cloudy Qilin clan. The mechanisms that he set up around the cave dwelling are almost all 8th grade and above. Even in ancient times, the armament masters who could set up 8th grade mechanisms were not commonly found. Furthermore, in the outer boundary of this cave dwelling is an extremely strong protection array." Li Moying smiled as he said, "It sounds like it's very difficult to manage, but my Lear will definitely have a way, right? You can also listen on." Huang Yueli raised her chin coquettishly. She wanted to say something when she suddenly heard a shuffle of hurried footsteps. Immediately following that, a man's voice rang, "Stop, all of you stop. What are you doing? Fang Xiaoning, you actually bow to these celestial light sect's trash. Green Cloud Sect's face has all been thrown away by you." Huang Yueli and Li Moying exchanged glances as they turned back together. Lang Yifeng came travel-worn as he walked out of the forest in quick steps, grabbing onto Fang Xiaoning's elbow. "What are you doing? The few of you, stop immediately." Fang Xiaoning stopped his bowing actions when he saw Lang Yifeng's appearance, but his face still bore a terrified and tensed expression. "Eldest senior brother, that. Young sect master Li, what?" Li Moying. Huang Yueli and Li Moying had already walked towards the cave dwelling and were standing at a blind spot, and only under Fang Xiaoning's pointing out did he finally see them. Li Moying gave a cold humph as he said, "Mr. Lang, my apologies, you've arrived too late. This cave dwelling belongs to the Celestial Light sect already." Lang Yifeng was so furious that he could only clench his teeth. When he saw the bright light, he knew that a rare treasure was going to appear, so he didn't bother about the plan to scheme on Li Moying as he rushed over at the first moment. But too bad he was still too late. Li Moying had snatched it first. With Li Moying around, things were so evident he didn't possibly have the chance to pick up any advantages. Lang Yifeng wasn't resigned to leave, and on turning his head back, he saw a lot of his junior brothers and junior sisters with ashen faces as he asked loudly, "Young sect masterly, you're wrong in saying that. There's not only celestial light sect's people here, there are plenty of green cloud sect's disciples here too. As the saying goes, those who see it have a part. So we should have a share in the treasures in the cave dwelling as well." Feng Xiaoning and the rest originally didn't have any more hopes with regards to the treasures, but in the end, when Lang Yifeng finally arrived, they started to have some hopes again. Lang Yifeng's ability wasn't Li Moying's match, but as his status was special, Li Moying wouldn't kill someone from the Lang family, right? Perhaps he might even give Lang Yifeng some face, distributing some over to Green Cloud's sect. Feng Xiaoning was the first to react. "Eldest senior brother, we are just too pitiful. Earlier we had a chance to enter the cave dwelling, but in the end, when young sect masterly brought his fiancée along, he immediately chased us away and forced us to bow and apologize." His words were obviously toppling black into white, hinting that Li Moying wanted to snatch the treasures in the cave dwelling. Celestial Light sect's disciples immediately disagreed as they all started hooting. "Feng Xiaoning, you're too shameless. This cave dwelling was obviously discovered by us first, and the ones who wanted to snatch the treasures are you guys. If it wasn't for young sect master who had arrived on time, we would have really been plundered by your gang of robbers. How dare you fabricate such stories? That's right, who's forcing who? Even if you were forced to apologize, it was because you deserved it." Of course Lang Yifeng knew that Feng Xiaoning's words had a problem, but he continued along with his flow. "Young sect masterly, you've also heard this. Celestial Light sect to have done this, isn't it a little too dishonorable?" Li Moying replied coldly, "Since we're already here in the mystic region, what's the talk about being honorable or not? Lang Yifeng, surely you're not such a naive person, right? You can also listen on." Lang Yifeng said, "Our two sects had always been in a cooperative relationship and were different from the other powerhouses' relationship where they have open and hidden battles. With rare treasures, should we mutually discuss the distribution of it? You wanting to hold it all for yourself, what's the difference between snatching over it? Indeed, there's no difference." Lang Yifeng had not imagined that Li Moying would readily admit to it, so he was stunned for a moment. However, immediately following that, Li Moying said icily, "What can you do if I want to snatch? What can you do if I want to snatch?" Light fleeting words, but it was sonorous. In an instant, it made Lang Yifeng's face totally red as he couldn't say a single word. This was a real blue strong practitioner. Under absolute advantage in terms of ability, any attempts on flowery words was useless. Even if he obviously wanted to snatch and to monopolize it, who dared to say a no word? This was just too arrogant. But Li Moying indeed had the capital to be arrogant. At this moment, Lang Yifeng truly felt that although he was a direct descendant of the Lang family, and was considered as the chosen one, but in front of Li Moying he was as small as a grain of sand. Li Moying said coldly, "Bring along your Green Cloud sect's people and scram." Lang Yifeng felt humiliated, especially in front of Huang Yueli, who was the person whom he admired, and to be slighted by his love rival, it made him extremely unbearable. But Lang Yifeng had no other choice but to self-hypnotize himself. No matter how powerful Li Moying was, how wild and arrogant he was, he could only be rampant for this short moment. After their plan succeeded, when Li Moying entered the center region, by then he'd be a dead man. Even his fiancée would be taken in by himself. After self-hypnotizing himself for a moment, Lang Yifeng finally calmed down as he prepared to bring his men to depart. Just at this moment, Feng Xiaoning popped out by the side as he urged, "Eldest senior brother, we might not need to leave. We can still discuss this." Lang Yifeng shook his head, "Forget it, it's impossible. He was the only one in Green Cloud's sect who had crossed hands with Li Moying so many times, and he knew that once Li Moying decided on something, it was impossible to change his mind. However, Feng Xiaoning suddenly turned towards Li Moying as he shouted, "Young sect master Li, I apologize for the earlier matter that had happened, but you cannot chase us away. Because without us, you can forget about entering this cave dwelling." Li Moying wasn't able to reply in time, but Huang Yueli had already gave a cold laugh filled with disdain. "That's interesting. We can't enter this cave dwelling, but you guys can." Feng Xiaoning replied, "Miss Bai, I know you're a certified armament master and you probably have in-depth knowledge regarding mechanisms. But it's not possible that you can't tell that there's not only mechanisms around the cave dwelling but also high-grade array formation. You need the coordination of an array master before you can enter the cave." Huang Yueli's brows rose. Array skills? So what about that? Did you think that a mere array can stop me? Feng Xiaoning's face suddenly showed a meaningful smile. "Miss Bai, did you think that you brought along a talented array master along so there's nothing to fear? Such a pity, because you're wrong. The only person who can decode the array in your Celestial Light sect is already in our Green Cloud sect's team." Huang Yueli went into a blank. "What do you mean?" Feng Xiaoning shouted to the back, "All right, stop hiding. You don't have anywhere to hide now anyway." A figure nudged out from the tree behind, shaking with fear and trepidation. "You can also listen on." Everyone's eyes fell onto that person as the crowd started to gasp. "Murong and I. Isn't that Murong and I? Why is she together with Green Cloud sect's people? Strange, when did she reach this place? How come we didn't see her earlier? Was she hiding behind the tree since earlier? Surely it's not possible, right? Murong and I is the sect master's daughter." Hearing the fluctuating discussions, Murong and I felt her face burning up as she was embarrassed to the max. She had not imagined that things would have developed to such a state. Just a few days ago, she had been left behind by Murong Fei, and while she was traveling and exploring the cloudy Qilan mystic region alone. As her ability was really just too low, she had already met with danger several times within the same day and almost lost her life. Luckily, Feng Xiaoning, who happened to pass by, had saved her. Feng Xiaoning originally didn't want to bother about this, but the desperate Murong Inai boasted that she was South Sky region's most incredible array talent. She indicated that she was willing to join their team, to help Green Cloud sect's practitioners break through the array formations in the Mystic region. Whereas the younger generation of Green Cloud sect was indeed lacking a talented array master. That was why Murong and I was able to smuggle into Feng Xiaoning's team, gaining their protection. This time, on seeing the strong light from the faraway rare treasure, the entire group of them hurried over, and Murong and I was one of them among them, but she had not expected that so many of Celestial Light sect's people were here to get hold of the treasure as well. When the disciples from both sects met, they started fighting for no apparent reason. Luckily she reacted in time and hid herself, otherwise if anyone saw her, she would become Celestial Light sect's traitor. After that, things became more and more intense. So Murong and I totally didn't dare to reveal herself. She originally thought that she could hide until the end, and while no one noticed her, she could slip away quietly. Whoever knew that Feng Xiaoning, in order to gain a share of the rare treasure from Li Moying's hands, he actually sold her off without any hesitation, forcing her to appear in front of everyone. Murong and I was now feeling extremely melancholic. Huang Yueli's gaze stopped on her face for a short moment and spoke with a non-smiling smile. "Mr. Feng, you really feel that Murong and I is able to help decode the array formation outside the cave dwelling? Don't forget, this array formation is left behind during ancient times, and it's not something that ordinary people can decode." Feng Xiaoning was brimming with confidence. "Of course, Murong and I is a third-rank array master. You Celestial Light people should be clearer on this than me." How rare it is to have a 17-year-old third-rank array master. Surely I need not say more on this, right? If she is unable to decode this array formation, then there would be no more hope for anyone else. Huang Yueli gave a cold laugh in her heart as she questioned, how do you guys want to do it then? Feng Xiaoning thought that she had conceded and hurriedly added, Celestial Light Sect's ability is stronger, no doubt about it, but our side is the crucial point to opening the cave dwelling. So the rare treasures in the cave dwelling should be split up into half each for both sects. Huang Yueli had not even responded when the other disciples already started crying out angrily. Half? You still want half? Do you know what is called shameless? Young sect master's one finger and he will be able to crush you all to death. You still have the cheek to split the rare treasure. Isn't that so? You guys really think you're something? We're telling you, forget about it. Feng Xiaoning didn't have a change of expression as he said, this is a matter of benefit, so surely young sect master wouldn't not think clearly, right? You can also listen on. If you're not willing to cooperate with us, then you won't be able to get those treasures in the cave dwelling as well, then we'd all have wasted our time today. This cave dwelling obviously has some heavyweight rare treasure, and if we just miss it like that, perhaps we might regret it for life. The correct choice would be for both our sects to cooperate together. Ling Yifeng gave Feng Xiaoning a thumbs-up glance as he spoke up for him as well. That's right, this is originally a reciprocity and mutual benefit matter, so why does young sect master need to hesitate? Of course, your abilities are much stronger, so we don't mind getting lesser. How about we split 60-40, how about that? We're showing enough sincerity, right? Li Moying looked at their delighted looks as he almost burst out laughing. Who or what gave these two fellows that kind of self-confidence? They actually felt that they could threaten him. How could his leer not match up to Murong and I? He had such an intelligent young fiancé, so he wouldn't be afraid of anyone's threat at all. However, when Li Moying was about to open his mouth, he suddenly saw Huang Yueli casting a signal to him with her eyes. He was stunned for a moment, not knowing what his fiancé had in mind, but he still obediently shut his mouth. Huang Yueli looked at Murong and I, your celestial light sect's disciple and sect master Murong's beloved daughter. You really want to stand on Green Cloud sects and betray your own sect? You have to think through this clearly. As expected, Murong and I started to reveal a hesitant and struggling look as she frowned. Feng Xiaoning saw that and immediately spoke out loudly, Murong and I, have you forgotten what you told me earlier? You said no one in Celestial Light sect cares about you, and as long as I am willing to help you, you can help me in anything. Furthermore, you promised that you will follow me back to Green Cloud sect. Are you regretting it now? Murong and I hesitated and didn't say a single word. Feng Xiaoning spoke out again, you think that it's a good thing if you return to Celestial Light sect now? Originally Li Moying and Murong Fei didn't want to bring you along for experience learning, and now that the others have ascertained that you're Celestial Light sect's traitor, even if you return, no one will treat you nicely. Perhaps you might not even survive to leave the Mystic region alive. But it's different if you follow me. So don't do anything which you will regret. Murong and I clenched her teeth as she said, of course I will stand by Master Feng's side. Bai Ruoli, stop trying to play the part of a good person. If it wasn't for you who dominated eldest senior brother, not allowing him to take care of me, how would I possibly have come to such a state? For me to act in this way is all because of you. Huang Yueli couldn't help but jeered, Murong and I, you're really funny. Practitioners who come out on experience learning all relied on their own selves. You don't even have the courage to go on experience learning alone, you still have the cheek to claim that you're a practitioner. Murong and I gritted her teeth, stop talking about those useless major principles, eldest senior brother is deceived by you. Today if Celestial Light sect suffers any losses, it's all your fault. Huang Yueli's expression turned colder by the minute, I've seen shameless people but I've never seen anyone who is as shameless as you. Turning black into white, don't you feel guilty at all? Moreover, did you think that you can threaten me? A third-rate array master who can't even set up a third-tier array even though looking at the array formation drawing, what gives you the self-confidence to say that? Moroni's expression changed immediately upon hearing that. Right now, she suddenly recalled that this young lady in front of her also knew array skills and further. Her level of mastery in array skills seemed to be third rank and above. You can also listen on. Just a few months ago in the Dark Moon Forest, Murong and I had indeed witnessed Huang Yueli's mastery in array skills. Only thing was, recently Huang Yueli had shown too much in terms of armament refining skills and cultivation's innate talent, hence most people had forgotten that she had other areas of shocking performance. Murong's small trickery, in front of Huang Yueli, was really not enough. Murong and I suddenly recalled this and instantly pressed the panic button. That's right, this wretched lass was so incredible, so actually, they totally didn't need her. Murong and I then realized that this pit was dug by Huang Yueli. She intentionally misled her into thinking that she was very important, purposely luring her to say out the words of betrayal toward Celestial Light Sect. Now Huang Yueli's motive had already been derived. Celestial Light Sect's disciples looked at her as though they were looking at a disgusting cockroach and she couldn't dismount the tiger anymore. It was apparently too late for her now to change her word, saying that she didn't have the intention to betray Celestial Light Sect. But the minute Green Cloud Sect's people found out that Huang Yueli's array skills mastery was higher than hers, then she would completely become a waste at Celestial Light Sect's side, so she definitely would not be able to get her previous position. The more Murong and I thought, the more frightened she got as sweat continued to drip down from her forehead. But Fong Xiaoning totally didn't know what she was worried about as he kept sneering, "Miss Bai, your armament refining skills and cultivation innate talent is indeed very strong, but you really shouldn't go treating yourself as someone great. Array skill is also a difficult art and not any simpler than armament refining. A third-rank array master is considered as an exceptionally outstanding talent. You have the cheek to say that she is a third-rate array master?" Huang Yueli's brows rose. "Oh. Really? Then it means I'm the one who is ignorant and ill-informed and I've belittled Miss Murong." Murong's heart was palpitating wildly. The more Fong Xiaoning believed in her ability, the more frightened she was of being exposed. Right now he had praised her to such a high level, so when she fell down, her fall would be terrible. Perhaps after Fong Xiaoning realized that he was fooled by her, he might even convert his embarrassment into anger, turning around to deal with her instead. What should she do? What should she do now? What should she say to make her not suffer from a miserable ending? Just as Murong's heart was burning like a furnace, Huang Yueli spoke out again. "Alright, since the few of you from Green Cloud Sect had said that. Moying and I had done some observations earlier, and in order to open up this cave dwelling, we indeed require the participation of an array master, so it seems that we have no choice but to cooperate with you guys." Hearing her say that, Leng Yifeng and Fong Xiaoning both looked towards Li Moying. "Young Sect Master Li, what do you say?" Li Moying took a sideward glance at them. "Hasn't my leader already said so?" The both of them were stunned. The both of them asked because they felt that although Huang Yueli was Li Moying's fiancée, but in terms of ability and status, she naturally couldn't be compared to Li Moying himself. The person who could make decisions in Celestial Light Sect was definitely Li Moying, and whether to cooperate or not, Huang Yueli's words don't count at all. They still required Li Moying's consent. In the end, they had not expected Li Moying to have such a response. Could it be that in his heart, Huang Yueli was already able to represent him entirely? Such a powerful and arrogant man like him actually placed his fiancée in such a high status. This really made them feel hard to believe. After some time, Lang Yifeng responded, "All right, since we've come to a mutual understanding, then we shall follow according to what we discussed earlier, to open the rare treasure. Wait a minute, I'm not done talking yet. You can also listen on." Huang Yueli stopped him from continuing as she continued to add on, "We can cooperate, but you have to prove that you are useful. Otherwise you cannot expect us to let you have the advantages for free, right?" Lang Yifeng frowned slightly. "This Miss Bai's meaning is," Huang Yueli said, "very simple. Since you claim that Murong and I can decode the array outside the cave dwelling, then let her come out and have a try. If fact proves that she is really able to decode the array, then when we all enter the cave dwelling, we can share the treasures inside with you. But if she didn't manage to decode it, and after that we Celestial Light sect manages to open up the cave dwelling, then we will not split any benefits with you guys." This was a reasonable request, so Lang Yifeng immediately nodded his head to represent that he agreed with it. This is the right thing to do. He totally had not realized the motive Huang Yueli had when she said these, only feeling that she was just saying a load of rubbish. From what he thought, if Murong and I had no way, then there was no way that the other people in Celestial Light sect could open up the cave dwelling, so the question of splitting up the treasures wouldn't exist at all. After both parties came to an agreement, all of them looked towards Murong and I. Right now, she was the most crucial character on whether the two sects were able to come together for a cooperation and if they were able to enter the cave dwelling, which was the main point which everyone was concerned about. Murong and I had yearned for everyone's attention on her, commanding public respect and support for the longest time ever. But this time, she didn't have the slightest feeling of excitement or agitation. On the contrary, she was entirely stiff to the max, totally not knowing what she should do. Decoding an advanced historical array, how could it be that easy? Based on her mere third-rank array master standard, it was completely impossible for her to complete this difficult task. Only, if it were usual times, everyone would be able to understand if she wasn't able to decode it. However, right now, Huang Yueli made use of public opinion to coerce her, which was equivalent to placing her on the fire to roast, totally in a difficult position. Celestial Light Sect's people had completely turned tables with her. Whereas Green Cloud Sect's people had placed all their hopes on dividing the rare treasures onto her. If she were to say that her ability didn't match up at this juncture and that she couldn't do it, then what was the outcome going to be? Murong Ni's forehead was filled with perspiration, but she could only brace herself as she walked to the side of the cave dwelling, starting to check on the situation of the surrounding array. Since things came to such a pass, she really had no way to retreat, hence the only thing she could do was to force herself to try it out. She walked one round around the cave dwelling's walls, carefully observing the walls and floors' array patterns. As she looked, she suddenly discovered something as her eyes instantly lit up. Originally she had completely lost hope, but after really observing it, she realized in excitement that the array protecting the cave dwelling surroundings was actually extremely advanced. Furthermore, this array looked rather familiar, as though there was no difference between the arrays which she had read from a historical array ancient record recently. Murong and I originally didn't believe that there was such a good thing, so she suppressed her excitement in her heart as she retrieved an array board from her realm ring as she surveyed the surroundings several rounds, as she kept on deducing and calculating. Lastly, after repeated verification, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that there was always a way out. Probably even that little slut by Ruoli had not expected that this array outside the cave dwelling was that simple, and in fact it so coincidentally happened to be something which she had once seen before. You can also listen on. What's the matter? After taking such a long time, how is it? Can you decode this array or not? Feng Xiaoning had turned impatient since some time ago, but he also knew that the process of deduction from an array master was very complicated and they needed to maintain a state of concentration, hence he didn't dare to disturb Murong and I. Now on seeing Murong and I suddenly standing up, he finally couldn't help himself from asking. Murong and I gave a smile on her face. Mr. Fong, Mr. Lang, I've not let down the trust you had in me. This array. I happened to come across it some days ago in a historical ancient manual, and although the method to decode it is a little complicated, but I should still be able to do it. Fong Xiaoning and Ling Yifeng were extremely overjoyed. That's great, that's really too great. Miss Murong, your array skills innate talent is indeed very high, to be able to decode this historical array easily. Murong and I was secretly feeling delighted when she heard that, as the smile on her lips couldn't be suppressed. On the contrary, Celestial Light Sect's disciples were bearing despondent expressions, as all of them were infuriated. Heaven really has no eyes. How did Murong and I really find the way to decode this array? Was her array skills mastery really that high? Murong and I had always bore the name of an array skill talent in South Sky region, so this isn't some surprising matter at all. But she is immoral. For a little bit of benefits, she even betrayed her own sect. Why did this kind of person become an array skill talent? Heaven really has no eyes. We had finally gotten some resources, but now we have to split half to these sort of people. Just thinking about it makes me feel unresigned. No matter how Celestial Light Sect's disciples scolded her, but Murong and I was feeling delighted, as she didn't feel upset at all. On the contrary, on seeing the disciples' angry expressions, she assumed that they must be feeling regretful. Who asked these people not to protect her, to bring her along on experience training, sending the treasures right to her? She chose the side which could let her gain more, which was just and right. She raised her chin as she looked at Huang Yueli. Miss Bai, really thankful to you. If it hadn't been for your help to raise the conditions for cooperation for both sides, I don't even know that my array skill standard was actually that high. Hearing that, Celestial Light Sect's disciples started sighing. Miss Bai had really miscalculated this time. She had not expected Murong and I to really be able to decode the array right. This time she had really moved the rock to smash on her own toes. Are we really going to split half of the treasures to Green Cloud Sect? That's right, it's just too infuriating. If we had known earlier, we wouldn't have agreed to some cooperation with Green Cloud Sect. I'd rather not have the treasure for myself than to let those villains from Green Cloud Sect benefit from it, especially for that traitor Murong and I. Murong and I looked at Huang Yueli in delight, assuming that she would be angrier than those ordinary disciples. But Huang Yueli's face hung a faint smile which was totally out of her expectations. Really? Looks like you're really sure of it. Then I shall first congratulate senior sister Murong. Murong and I saw her look and her heart thumped hard, subconsciously feeling that something was not right. Huang Yueli's look seemed a little too peaceful. She totally didn't look like someone whose plot had failed. She then turned her gaze towards Li Moying. Li Moying's expression was totally unreadable to her. He totally didn't take notice of anyone else. That pair of seductive peach blossom eyes were fixated tightly onto Huang Yueli, as his expression was gentle, and he would caress the young lady's hair every now and then. You can also listen on. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.